Hi, my name is Gloria Roberts. Today we are discussing the topic food shortage. Food shortage. Objectives of lesson. By the end of the lesson, the learners should be able to 1. Define food shortage. 2. List at least 5 causes of food shortage. 3. Mention at least 4 effects of food shortage. 4. List and give the principles in preserving and storing food. And number 5, state at least 3 ways to improve food production. What is food shortage? Food shortage simply means a condition whereby the food in a given area is not abundantly available to support the individual organisms or population in it. Food shortage is common among animals, but for plants, they are said to experience shortage of nutrients. Now, food shortage also means or simply means very small quantity of food for a very large population of organisms. As you can see in this image, we have several number of children feeding on a very small quantity of food. That is food shortage. The food is far lesser than the number of children, and so the food will not be enough definitely for them all. So let's look at the causes of food shortage. These are as follows. Number 1, natural disaster. Natural disasters such as flood, drought, earthquake, fire outbreak can lead to food shortage, either by destroying the farm crops on the farm, destroying a storage facility, or destroying roads so as to prevent the food from getting to the market or to the consumers of the food. Number 2 is overcrowding, commonly known as overpopulation. Now, when we have higher number of people in a particular area, they tend to feed on the available food, and after a while, it can lead to food shortage. 3. Pests and diseases. Pests such as locusts, grasshopper, rats, birds, weevils feed on farm crops, which are food to other organisms, and in the process they destroy them, which can then lead to food shortage. Number 4. Poor storage facilities. Storage facilities are facility meant for storing food for future reason or purpose. Now, when these storage facilities are not well equipped or well managed, it can lead to food shortage. Number 5 is bush burning. When bushes are burnt, what happens? The farm or any other plants there, the crops there are removed. And not only that, the animals too are killed, and some of them will leave such an environment. And so this can cause food shortage. And lastly, high survival rate. When organisms survive better in a place, it will lead to increase in population, that is overcrowding, and you know how overcrowding can lead to food shortage. So these and many more are causes of food shortage. So let's look at the effect of food shortage on population size. Number 1 effect is that it can cause competition. Now, competition is the struggle between organisms for the resources they need. Okay. Now, scarcity of food leads to struggling among organisms for any available food. So when there is food shortage, the organism will tend to fight one another in order to have the food, and the stronger ones get the food while the weaker ones go hungry or without food. Number 2 effect is emigration. Animals move from an area of food shortage to where there will be sufficient food available for them. So this is normal. Number 3, decrease in the rate of reproduction. Now, food is a necessity to promote reproduction. So in an area where there is food shortage, it can decrease the rate of reproduction. Even human beings, it can result in them going as far as looking for different methods in order to control the number of family. So they can take to family planning in order to reduce the number of children they reproduce and can cater for. Number 4 is cannibalism. Cannibalism simply means organisms feeding on others of their own kind. For example, dog feeding on dogs, human feeding on human. Gross, right? Very, very bad. But it can be an effect of food shortage. And lastly but not the least, malnourishment, starvation, and death. These are some of the effects. You can look through your textbook for more examples of the effects of food shortage on population size. So let's move on by looking at this. Note, food shortage has negative effects on human population size. Good. Now, as the population of organisms increases, it is expected that the quantity of food produced too should increase accordingly. But in most times, it's not like that. However, when there is food shortage among humans, the following are likely to occur. One is high cost of food. So the little available food will be very expensive, right? The second point is that it leads to antisocial behavior. People begin to steal food from one another. They fight to get food. They are so aggressive. Can even lead to corruption, but they can do anything just to have food on their tables or in their bellies, as the case may be. And then the last point here can lead to starvation, malnourishment, malnutrition, and death, of course. So here I want to discuss the methods of food preservation and storage. Now, the method and principles of preserving food include: number one method, salting methods. This involves coating of food with salt, or common table salt. Now, this method can be used for preserving fresh meat, fresh fish, and so on. The principle of this method, that is, how does this method actually help in preserving the food? Number one point is that the salt dehydrates the food, removes water from the food. Most microorganisms that causes spoilage of food, they need water. So when there is no water, they tend to die over time. The second point is that the salt inhibits the growth or kills the microorganisms that can cause the spoilage of this food. And number three point is that salting increases the taste and flavor of food. You know that salt is very tasty in food, so it actually helps in increasing the flavor and taste of food. Number two methods of preserving food is drying method. Can also be known as sun drying method. This is a way of preserving food by drying them under the sun. Foods such as vegetables, maize, cassava, fish, meat, and so on can be preserved using this method. Right? Now the principle here is that the drying reduces the water content of the food. We discussed this earlier. The second point here is that it makes it unsuitable for the growth of food spoilage microorganism. So number three, smoking methods. This involves placing the food like meat, granite, plantain over naked fire to dry them. Now you've heard of smoked fish, smoked meat, and so on. Now that is the method used for doing, and they can stay longer. Now the principles here: number one, the smoke kills the microorganisms. Not only the smoke, even the heat from the smoke. Number 2 point here is that the smoke also contains chemicals that are poisonous to these microorganisms, so the process destroys or kills them. Then number 4 method is refrigeration or freezing method. This involves keeping food such as fruit, vegetables, milk, bread, fish, meat in refrigerator. So you can put them in the fridge, you can put them in the freezer, and all of these equipment, they work at low temperature. So the principles here is that one, the low temperature of these refrigerators, freezers, and the rest reduces the metabolic rate of the microorganisms, so they will not be able to function at a faster rate as they used to do because of the low temperature. They need maximum or suitable temperature to survive. Then the last one is that it can kill the microbes, thus preventing the food from getting spoiled. So let's look at this canning method. Number 5, canning or bottling. Food are kept in airtight containers such as cans and bottles, and then these are further heated up in order to destroy any microorganisms around them. And the principle is that the heat kills the food spoilage microbes. Containers prevent air from having contact with the food, because most of these microorganisms, they live in the air. So when air touches food, over the time they can cause them to spoil easily. 6, pasteurization. This is the heating of some food products to a very high temperature such as 72 degrees Celsius for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then rapidly cooled for the purpose of storage. Now the principle of pasteurization is that the high temperature destroyed the food spoilage microorganisms. Milk, cheese, beef, and other foods can be preserved using this method. Most times canning and bottling can be done by carrying out pasteurization first. So pasteurization, the canning method can proceed in most cases. Number 7, irradiation. This is the subjection of some food, okay, to a high radiation such as ultraviolet ray. Now the radiation will kill the microorganism in the food and also prevent the entrance of new one. This is a modern method of preserving food, and food such as milk, canned food, tubers, fruit juice, and so on can be preserved using this method. And number 8, chemical method. This is the addition of harmless chemicals such as vinegar, nitrites, sulfites to food. Now know that these chemicals are not harmful to the organisms that want to consume them, such as human beings, and they are usually used at a low quantity or standard quantity that the body can take. Soft drinks, vegetables, fish, meat, and so on can be preserved using these methods. Now the chemical will choke the spoilage, causing microorganisms in the food. It also dehydrates the microbes. These are principles involved in these methods. So note that storage method is a little bit different from preservation method. However, the end result is for the food to stay longer. Now, food can be stored in order to make them stay longer, either in silos, as you can see in the first image on the screen. Then you can also use cribs for storing grains, millets, wheat, and so on. Then the second one is showing barns for storing yams, okay, and some other tubers too can be stored using this method. The third one here is showing bags which are used for storing rice, onions, pepper, sometimes legumes such as beans, soybeans, soya beans, cowpeas, and so on. And lastly, we have baskets and racks that can be used for storage of vegetables such as tomatoes, cabbage, lettuce, carrots, and so on. So, preservation and storage method, they are processes that will help us to keep our food for a longer time. So let's talk about food security. Food security among a population of organisms in an environment, especially among humans, is having enough food. So when you have population of organisms and they have enough food to sustain them, nothing like starvation or anything, that means they have food security. Food security is an indication of how much food is available in a given place or country. All right, there are countries that are food secure. Food is not a challenge for them, and this is common among the developed countries. While the undeveloped or underdeveloped country are still having food insecurity issue. Biological factors threatening food security include: first, cost of production, cost of producing this food, right from the market, from the raw industries, and so on. The second issue that can affect or threatening food security is overpopulation, too many people, and so the food does not get produced at the same rate at which the population is increasing, and this can cause a really big issue. The third one here is conflicts, competition, war, riots, and the rest. All these are factors that can threaten food security in a place. And lastly, pests and disease. Those organisms, they ravage food a lot and so destroy most of them in most cases if they are not controlled. Now, to overcome food shortage and help population whose food security is under threat, better ways of improving food production should be adopted. So let's discuss methods that can be used to improve food production. Number one here, we have proper timing of planting and harvesting crops. So when crops are planted at the right time, harvested at the right time, it will help to improve food production. Number two, adoption of better cultivation methods such as crop rotation, use of crop cover, terrace method, and other methods that can help to enhance food production. Number three, control of weeds. Weeds are unwanted plants around our crops, so they have to be removed regularly and control, of course. Number four, use of good crop varieties, yes, so that when they grow or germinate, they can give good harvest of crops. Five, use of resistant variety of seeds, so that the plants that will be harvested at the end will also be okay. And six here, use of manure and fertilizer to improve the fertility of the soil and make the crops to grow well. And lastly but not the least, control of pests and diseases of crops. which are the major, most time, the main causes of food shortage. So if these are worked on in a country or in a place, the food production of such a place will increase and there will be food security. Woo! It's time for our student activities. You have 10 questions for yourself. So get your biro, get your paper, and start working on this. Okay, in case you're not able to answer any or you are like confused about the answer to choose, don't worry, go back to the video, listen to the video again, watch it, download it if you have to, and at the end I believe you'll be able to tackle this and even more questions on food shortage. Okay, this is the answer to the student's activity. It's time for you to mark yourself. Our goal always is to have 100%. So at this time I want to thank you for joining me and I hope you have your 100%.